There is a 4-hour window almost every morning when your heart is under more strain than at any other time of the day. And most people over 55 sleep right through the warning and walk straight into it with a cup of coffee. This isn't a scare tactic. It's one of the most consistent findings in all of cardiology. The hours just after you wake up carry roughly 40% more risk of a heart attack than any other stretch of the day. In the next 20 minutes, I want to give you 3 things. First, why does your body do this to itself every single morning? Second, the specific changes happening inside your arteries between roughly 6 and 10. Changes you can actually feel if you know what to notice. And third, the small handful of morning habits that cardiologists themselves use to take the edge off that window. The third one takes about 90 seconds and most people have never heard of it. Stay with me because if you only remember one thing from this video, it should be that one. But first, you need to understand what your body is actually doing the moment your eyes open. If you're over 55, you've probably already felt a version of this without naming it. You wake up and within a few minutes, your heart is going a little faster than it should for someone just lying still. Maybe a flutter, maybe a heaviness in the chest you brush off as, "I just need my coffee." I want to be honest with you up front. This video is general health information, not a diagnosis, and nothing here replaces a conversation with your own doctor. If you have chest pain, pressure, or shortness of breath, that is not a watch a video later situation. That's a call an ambulance situation. But for the millions of people who feel fine and just want to understand their own bodies better, the morning pattern is worth understanding deeply. Because here's the part that surprises people. The danger isn't random. It runs on a clock. And once you understand the clock, the whole morning starts to make sense, including one habit you almost certainly do every single day that quietly makes it worse. I'll come back to that. First, the clock itself. Let's start with the most fundamental question. Why mornings at all? Your body runs on an internal 24-hour clock, the circadian rhythm. It's not a metaphor. It's a real biological timing system that controls when you get sleepy, when your temperature dips, when certain hormones are released. And critically, it controls a daily rise and fall in your blood pressure. Here's what happens in the hours before you even open your eyes. Your body, anticipating that you're about to get up and move, starts ramping up. Stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, begin to climb. Cortisol typically peaks right around the time you wake. Adrenaline is the same molecule behind the fight or flight feeling. It tells the heart to beat faster and the blood vessels to tighten. So before your feet touch the floor, your heart rate is rising and your blood pressure is climbing. Cardiologists call this the morning surge. In a younger person with clean, flexible arteries, this surge is no problem at all. The body is built for it. But after 55, more of us are carrying something on the walls of our arteries, plaque. It builds slowly, over decades, often with zero symptoms. And a surge in pressure against a vessel that already has a vulnerable spot is a very different event than the same surge in a clean vessel. Now, here's where it stops being theory and becomes hard data. Back in 1985, researchers publishing in the New England Journal of Medicine looked at the timing of thousands of heart attacks and found something that genuinely reshaped the field. Heart attacks don't strike evenly around the clock. They cluster in the morning. That finding has been confirmed again and again in the 40 years since. The window from roughly 6 in the morning to noon carries about 40% more risk than the rest of the day combined. 40%. Sit with that number for a second. It means the very hours when you feel groggiest and least alert, when you're least likely to recognize a warning sign, are the hours your heart is working hardest. And it's not only blood pressure. There's a second system involved, and this is the part most people have never heard. Your blood itself changes through the day. In the early morning, the small cells responsible for clotting, your platelets, become stickier. They clump together more readily, peaking somewhere around 6 to 9 in the morning. At the very same time, your body's natural clot-dissolving system slows down. There's a protein that breaks up clots. In the morning, its activity drops to its lowest point of the day, while a second protein that blocks clot breakdown rises to its highest. So picture the full setup. Your blood pressure is surging, your arteries are tightening, your platelets are stickier than they'll be all day, and your ability to break down a clot is at rock bottom. That's not one risk factor. That's 4 of them lining up at the same hour. Now that you understand why the morning is loaded, the next question is the one that actually matters for your daily life. What is your body doing in those specific minutes right after you wake? And what are you doing that might be adding to it? Because there's one extremely common morning habit that pours fuel on this fire, and almost nobody connects the two. Let's pick up the thread from where we left off because this is where it gets personal. The morning surge is happening to everyone, but what you do in your first 30 minutes awake can either ride that wave gently or slam into it. Start with something almost no one thinks about: water. You just spent 7 or 8 hours not drinking anything, breathing out moisture the whole time. You wake up mildly dehydrated, and dehydrated blood is thicker, more concentrated, slightly harder to push through narrowed vessels. Layer that on top of the stickier platelets and the pressure surge, and you've quietly made the hardest hour of your heart's day a little harder. Then there's the way most of us get up. We don't ease into the morning. The alarm goes off and we bolt upright, swing our legs out, and stand. For a body whose pressure is already surging, going from flat to vertical in 2 seconds is a jolt. It's a small thing, but small things at the worst possible moment is the entire theme of this video. And now the habit I promised you. The one almost everyone over 55 does, often within minutes of waking: the first cup of coffee. I'm not here to take your coffee away. I drink it too, and for most people, it's part of a perfectly healthy life. But timing matters. Caffeine nudges your blood pressure up and can tighten blood vessels for a stretch after you drink it. When you take that nudge and stack it directly on top of the morning surge that's already peaking, you've added one more upward push at the exact hour your heart least needs it. For most people, that's harmless. For someone with existing risk, it's worth thinking about when, not whether, that cup happens. If you're still with me, this next stretch is the most important part of the whole video, and it's exactly where people tend to drift. So stay with me for 5 more minutes because what comes next is the part you can actually use. Here's the deeper truth underneath all of this. The morning surge is not a malfunction. Your body isn't betraying you. This rise in pressure and alertness is the same machinery that's woken up your ancestors safely for hundreds of thousands of years. The problem isn't the surge. The problem is the plaque, the slow, silent buildup that turns a normal morning event into a dangerous one. And that reframes everything. It means the goal isn't to stop your morning rhythm. You can't, and you wouldn't want to. The goal is twofold: keep the arteries as healthy as you can over the long run, and take the sharp edges off that one vulnerable window in the short run. In 2025, the American Heart Association put out a scientific statement emphasizing just how central these daily rhythms are to heart health. Not as a fringe idea, but as mainstream cardiology. The timing of your biology is finally being taken as seriously as the biology itself. Which brings us to the payoff, the part where I show you exactly what to do with your own mornings. This is the section I'd want my own parents to hear. Here's the single most useful idea in this entire video, and it's almost embarrassingly simple. You do not have to meet the morning at full speed. The most dangerous transition isn't waking up. It's how violently you go from sleeping to doing. So the most protective thing you can build is a gentle on-ramp, a buffer between flat and asleep and upright and rushing. Let me show you exactly what that looks like, because I want this to be concrete enough that you can do it tomorrow. Step 1 happens before you even sit up. When you wake, stay lying down for a moment and take slow, deliberate breaths. Here's the technique I mentioned at the very start, and it takes about 90 seconds. Breathe in slowly through your nose for a count of about 4. Let it out even more slowly for a count of about 6. The long exhale is the active ingredient. A slower out-breath gently signals your nervous system to ease off the gas, taking a little of the edge off that adrenaline spike. Do that for 6 or 8 breaths before you ever stand up. You're not fighting the surge, you're cushioning it. Step 2. Get vertical in stages. Sit on the edge of the bed for a slow count of 10 before you stand. Let your body adjust to being upright instead of demanding it adjust instantly. For anyone who's ever felt lightheaded standing up fast, this isn't just heart smart, it's fall smart too. Step 3. Rehydrate before you caffeinate. A glass of water first thing helps thin out that concentrated morning blood before you add caffeine to the mix. Then have your coffee. Just give yourself a window. Even pushing that first cup back by 20 or 30 minutes, until after you've moved gently and had some water, means you're no longer stacking a blood pressure nudge directly onto the peak of the surge. Now let me paint the picture of why this matters so much, using the kind of morning that plays out in emergency rooms every single day. And I want to be clear, this is a composite, the common pattern rather than one specific person. Someone in their early 60s, generally feeling fine, maybe a little high blood pressure they keep an eye on. The alarm goes off. They jolt upright, stand, and head straight for the coffee on an empty, dehydrated system. All inside the surge window, all at once. Most mornings, nothing happens. The body absorbs it. But on the wrong morning, with the wrong vulnerable spot in an artery, that stacked load is the straw that tips a normal surge into an event. Here's the hopeful flip side, and it's the reason I made this video. Almost everything I just described is within your control. You can't change that you have a circadian rhythm, but you can absolutely change how hard you hit the morning. The breathing, the slow stand, the water before coffee, none of it costs $1. None of it requires a prescription, and all of it directly addresses the specific mechanisms we walked through. You're not just trying to be healthy in some vague way. You're meeting a known, predictable risk window with a known, sensible response. That's not wishful thinking, that's strategy. So here's exactly what I want you to do starting tomorrow morning. First, before you sit up, do the breathing. Slow in for 4, slow out for 6, 6 to 8 times, 90 seconds. That's the one technique I asked you to remember. Second, sit on the edge of the bed for a slow 10 count before you stand. Give your body a stage transition instead of a jump cut. Third, drink a glass of water before your first coffee, and if you can, give that coffee a little delay, 20 or 30 minutes into your morning instead of the first thing your heart deals with. And fourth, this is the one that really matters. Talk to your own doctor about your morning specifically. If you take blood pressure medication, ask about timing. For some people, dosing strategy is tailored to that morning window, and that's a decision only your doctor can make with your full history in front of them. Never change or stop a medication on your own based on a video, including this one. None of this is complicated. You don't need to overhaul your life. You need a softer on-ramp and a real conversation with someone who knows your numbers. That's it. That's completely doable. Here's what I want you to take away. Your heart isn't fragile and your morning isn't the enemy. Your body has been waking you up safely for a lifetime. The whole game after 55 is simply meeting that one loaded hour with a little more care than you used to. If this was useful, the natural next step is understanding the warning signs themselves, because heart symptoms after 55, and especially in women, often don't look like the dramatic chest clutch everyone pictures. That's the video I'd watch next, and it's the one that could matter most. Take your mornings a little slower. Your heart's been doing the hard part for decades. The least we can do is give it an easier place to start the day.